Good evening and welcome back to another episode of the Seneca Scout. I'm Taylor Bowers.
And I'm Alex Palmieri.
Let's get right into the show.
Firstly, let's start off with the World Cup. The 2022 World Cup has been going on for the past 2 weeks, and many games have been about more than just soccer. Iran has been through many political struggles these past few years, and many players and fans are looking for more than just soccer to be the spotlight of their matches. On November 21st, during the Iran versus England game, Iranian players refused to sing their nation's national anthem. At the next game, the players were seen crying as they sang their national anthem. After this event, speculations arose that the players and their families were threatened by the Iranian government. It has also been said that members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, otherwise known as the IRGC, were stationed with the Iranian players to assure that they would not meet with foreigners or hang out in places outside of their team area. Protests have been going on in Iran over human rights for women in the country. This past weekend, the U.S. soccer team wanted to show their support for the people of Iran by posting a picture of the Iran flag with the Islamic emblem and God is great in the country's language on the flag. The flag was removed and replaced with the normal Iranian flag after 24 hours. Iran was taken out of the World Cup after the loss to the U.S. on Sunday. Support is with the members of the Iranian soccer team as they head home.
Moving from soccer to cyberspace, FTX, who is at its peak, is the third largest crypto exchange in the world, has recently gone bankrupt. The issue started when the intertwined relationship between FTX and Alameda Research was unearthed in an article by Bloomberg. Alameda was the largest disposer of stable coins on FTX during the months of June and July. This relationship allowed Alameda profit from the losses of others in the coin. John J. Ray III, FTX CEO, says Alameda had a secret exemption from FTX auto liquidation protocol. He also went on to say that FTX had lent $10 billion of its customers' assets to Alameda earlier this year. This, of course, being a misuse of customer funds, was corrupted by FTX-made software. In the beginning of November, CoinDesk reported a large amount of Alameda's research assets were held in the FTT coin, making the successful of two companies tied at the hip. After this article's release, Binance, who owned a large stake in FTT coin, stated their intention to sell it all off. On Twitter, CEO of Binance, Changpeng Zhao, cited his reason for the sell-off as, quote, recent revelations that came to light, end quote. This was no doubt due to in small part of the recent revelations exposed by CoinDesk. CoinDesk's article played a large role in the eventual FTX collapse as the unstable nature of using FTT coin as a collateral was exposed, as well as the potential legal implications of the mishandling of customer funds. On November 9th, FTX website stated it is not allowing withdrawals for the time being. This effectively froze everyone's money, and suddenly several news articles came out revealing that FTX had a lot less money than it had initially believed. Just a day after freezing all withdrawals, FTX began selling off assets to try and gain back capital. Finally, just a day later on November 11th, FTX, Alameda Research, and over 100 other affiliates filed for bankruptcy in Delaware. FTX is still in the process of liquidating assets and desperately trying to pay back investors in the coin. Overall, this will not only have a negative impact on the investors and parties involved with FTX, but also will hinder the perception of cryptocurrencies to more mainstream audiences.
Also in tech news, following Tesla CEO Elon Musk's recent purchase of social media giant Twitter, Musk has made many controversial decisions. Most notable of these being the addition of a subscription service that would grant any subscriber the same verification checkmark previously used to identify notable individuals and groups in news, government, or entertainment. Most recently, however, Musk decided to openly oppose the Apple App Store and its 30% cut of any sales made on in-app purchases, which Musk called, quote, a secret 30% tax, end quote, on Twitter, despite the fact that the cut is public knowledge. Musk also stated that Apple had threatened to withhold Twitter from the App Store, despite backtracking on this claim 2 days later following a meeting with Apple CEO Tim Cook, in which Musk also stated that the conflict had been resolved between the two companies. This dispute is highly reminiscent of a similar battle between Apple and video game developer and publisher Epic Games after Epic tried to find a workaround to the App Store's 30% cut, resulting in Epic Games' smash hit Fortnite being removed from the App Store. The dispute between these two ended last year in a court decision where a U.S. district judge sided with Apple on 9 out of 10 counts, while also ordering Apple to stop prohibiting app makers from directing customers to payment systems outside of Apple's reach. Musk's controversies continue as head of Twitter are sure to continue as he proceeds to tout claims that he will bring, quote, free speech back to the platform by unbanning accounts that were previously banned for harmful or falsified claims, including former President Donald Trump and social media influencer Andrew Tate.
Moving now to politics. Democrats in the House of Representatives are set to get some young and historic leadership starting in January. New York Representative Hakeem Jeffries ran unopposed in his bid to replace Nancy Pelosi in the Democratic leadership role. At age 52, Jeffries is 30 years younger than Pelosi, and he will become the first black person to lead a major political party in the United States. With the Democrats losing the majority in the House by a thin margin after the 2022 midterms, Jeffries says he is planning on how to effectively take the party from a majority to a minority role. When asked about his historic opponent, Jeffries said, quote, "When we get an opportunity as diverse leaders to serve in positions of conquest, the most meaningful thing we can do in the space is to do an incredibly good job that hopefully will encourage others to think about public service and alleviate concerns that folks who are skeptical may have the ability of every type of American to operate successful at the highest levels," end quote. Jeffries will be joined by Representative Katherine Clark of Massachusetts as his second in command and Representative Pete Alger of California in the third ranking member.
On the international stage, recently protests have erupted across all China over its controversial zero-COVID policy. The anti-government protest symbol has its roots back in 2020, where Hong Kong protesters used the symbol of a blank white piece of A4-sized paper to rally behind. The more recent zero-COVID protests have used the same symbol. Some of the specific actions that were taken to Xi Jinping's zero-COVID policy include strict lockdowns, even in areas where there are just a few cases of coronavirus, and mass testing of entire cities if any cases are reported at all. An example of this mass testing is Guangzhou, where millions of residents were ordered to get tested by government authorities. These protests have been active for the past few weeks. The Chinese government has given little indication as to their response to the protests. There is no end in sight for these protests, and we can only hope a peaceful solution to these issues.
Let's wrap up this show on a more lighthearted topic. With the year coming to an end, different music platforms have released their end-of-the-year recaps. Spotify Wrapped was released last Wednesday, providing its premium users with a recap of their year's most listened to artists, songs, and genres. Spotify announced that its most streamed artist this year was Puerto Rican rapper Bad Bunny with 18.5 billion streams worldwide. The most streamed song being Harry Styles' As It Was, and the most streamed podcast being The Joe Rogan Experience. This personalized experience is something that many users look forward to and has been in place since 2016. A different streaming service has had to come up with their own recaps in competition with Spotify. This year, Apple Music has released an improved Apple Music Replay, a recap of users' streaming histories that is similar to Spotify's. Olivia Schuster, Apple's Vice President of Music and Beats, says, quote, "When we first launched Replay, the feature became an instant fan favorite on Apple Music, and we really want to develop the experience further and make it even more special, personal, and unique for subscribers," end quote.
And thus concludes another great showing of the Seneca Scout.
Thank you all for tuning in, and as always, we will see you on next Friday for another amazing episode.